players, past legends. Past legends.
Welcome Dexter Kennedy aboard, the big fellow, the West Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Of course, most famously known for debuting at the casual age of 15 years and 11 months and 2 days in round 5 in 1970 against Port Adelaide. So 70 to 82 at West Adelaide, 228 games, 127 goals. Then at Port Adelaide 83, 84, 50 games, seven goals. Welcome aboard, Dexter.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You started, I did a little bit of research on this a little bit earlier today. You started your juniors at Port Augusta, is that correct?
Yes, born and bred in Port Augusta, and my junior team was Wilston, which is, as you drive into Port Augusta, that's from Adelaide, that's the Wilston area, very much a housing trust area. Built, a lot of those houses were built on the back of the powerhouse, being in Port Augusta, and also the railways. Yeah, so in Wilston, unfortunately, my junior club doesn't exist anymore. It's one of those country clubs that unfortunately fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
Did they have an opportunity to amalgamate? Do you know, or is it just that?
Well, what they did, when I first started Wilston, we were green and gold, and then I think late '60s we went to St Kilda colours, and then later, I'm not quite sure, late '90s perhaps, but I'll stand corrected on that. They amalgamated with Corn.
Okay.
And they switched to the Crows colours, which is, I'm so glad I was out of Port Augusta now. I don't know if I could wear the Crows colours. So and then they were quite successful. I think they won at least one senior premiership, possibly two, and a couple of underage ones, seconds. But I'm not quite sure exactly what happened, but they folded and went to three sides, and of course in the Spencer Golf League, they play against Port Pirie at that stage. Weil had already left.
Yep.
And Port Pirie went to three sides, so there's only six sides in that Spencer Golf League now.
So how old were you when you then moved down to Adelaide?
14 I was. Yeah, well,
Okay.
I moved in May 1969, and I turned 15 in the June.
And you went to Adelaide High on memory?
Yeah, it was Adelaide Boys High back then. Yeah, yes.
We will be honest to people out there. The internet's down, so a fair bit of this is being done off the top of the head and memory. So yes. So from there, and so did you just come down mainly to study then, or just family moved down, or?
Oh, that was interesting. Was it 2 years prior, maybe even the year I came down? I actually, when I was playing for Wilston, under 13s it was called. I don't know how, but we ended up playing at the end of the season a game against Ethelton on the Ethelton Oval there down the Port Adelaide. And
Ethel weighs a ton. Yep.
Yeah, and we played a game there. And the game was umpired by a bloke called Harry. He was actually Foster Williams' runner. He was the actual field umpire. And
that wasn't Hallett Shuard, was it?
No, sorry, Harry.
Okay.
Harry, that wasn't. No, she was a river. His surname escapes me, but he contacted Port Adelaide and said, "There's a big, tall, skinny kid up here you should have a look at." So I came down 2 years and played in Port's under 17s trials.
Right.
And they wanted me to come down, but that didn't eventuate. Then West Adelaide sent up one of their recruiting scouts. Then Dad and I came down and spoke to the Weed.
Yep.
And drove home, and Dad was, telling me I'm playing for West Adelaide, which I must say I wasn't overly pleased with at the time, but all of a sudden a second-hand Doug Thomas car turned up, and then I was sent off to school. So as I keep on saying to people, it was my birthday, but Dad got all the presents. So, and that's how I ended up coming to. I was always a Port Adelaide person as a young kid, but don't regret the years I spent at West Adelaide by any means.
Was West Adelaide your zone?
No, there wasn't any zones back then. No zones back then.
Of course.
Yeah, there was a couple came. Wayne Broadbridge was from Port Augusta. He is a West Augusta boy. He came down, and I think it was a Modra, no relation to the Riverland Modras. I can't think of his first name. He was playing at Norwood. So there's a couple of them came down. Of course, in the late 60s, of course, you had Barry Robin, of course, and Graham Corns came down from Whyalla. So, yeah, it was quite a strong league back in that time.
And, of course, the unexpected, because you were so young, to debut. So were you in, the old style third year or fourth year?
No, I never played thirds. Actually,
I meant school level.
And played under 17s, in 1969 when I came down. So basically, it came down with the season started. So I played that 69 in the under 17s. It actually played a game at the end of the year up at Barmera for the West Adelaide under 15s because I was still eligible.
Eligible, yeah.
So,
what year were you at school in terms of? Was it were you doing third year?
Third year.
Yeah,
I was third year when I came down, and then went to what we call fourth year back then.
Yep.
Or intermediate.
Intermediate.
No, intermediate was third year. Correct. Yeah.
Leaving. Sorry. That's right.
Yeah, leaving.
Yep.
Yeah. And then for some reason I played some trials, and the weed put me in the reserves trials, and. And then I remember one particular, I was playing Woodville at Richmond. He took me out of the reserves trial and put me, set me on the bench for the A-grade trial. And then I started, as I say, the first 4 games in the reserves, and then I must have been playing all right. And Big Aldo Russian was the ruckman.
Oh, yeah.
Big Aldo. And, but I remember walking off training one Thursday night, and we'd come up and said to me, his words were, better shine your boots up. You're in the A-grade this week. So it was a complete shock to me. I had no idea I was even considered or playing well enough to play in the league side. And it just happened to be Ports at Albion.
When you were given that information, what were your first thoughts as a young fella?
Well, it's very interesting. It sort of didn't really sink in. I thought, well, selection hadn't been made at that particular stage, and but then later on that night, the press turned up. I was staying with a lady, a legend of the club, the late Jeannie Luke, and number 6 Mallon Street at Hilton there, right behind the Hilton Hotel on South Road. And,
fair memory there, Dexter. Well
played.
Yeah.
Jeannie was actually, and her husband Donnie were actually Port Augusta people, but.
Right.
So though I didn't know that at the time when I moved down. So, but the press turned up, took a photograph of myself and Donnie together, and was in the advertiser. Oh, that's right. Also, next morning I arranged to meet Lindsay Head in Goodger Street. There's another photograph, and then I realised, well, hang on a sec, I've got to play A-grade tomorrow. So driving down there on the day, you obviously get very, very nervous and you look around, particularly at the Port Adelaide boys. A lot of them were my heroes growing up.
Yep.
Like Jack Cahill and all those, those sorts of players were playing. And I thought, all of a sudden, 2 or 3 years ago, I was worshipping the ground they walked on, and I'm in opposition to them. So, it was all happened very quickly, and it was quite surreal, really.
Bit of a baptism of fire there at Albion.
It was. It's quite interesting because we were fairly competitive for most of the game, but Murray, I can't remember who came off, but there was no interchange back in those days. And I went on in the last quarter, went straight in the middle of the ground, and Ian Berry was the ruckman.
Yep.
And he tapped the ball down. He said, "Stand there." Tapped the ball straight into my midriff and threw it onto my boot straight away. And I thought, well, here I go. So. And then went up forward. I think my second kick, I kicked a goal.
Oh, yep.
And then third kick, I kicked a point. So, but going back, then the late Ron Ellaway was back there. You look at him, I thought, my goodness me, he was just run over the top of me. He wouldn't even know he hit me. So
noticed that you did play with the legendary Robert Day.
He was
well.
Yeah. He was the captain that day. I actually sat next to him. He looked after me that day. He was a fantastic player and a great man, and still very much involved with West Adelaide now.
Yeah, incredible. Still be involvement is remarkable.
Yeah.
So
It was
from there,
fantastic.
so you played under a few different coaches at Westies. So
Yes.
The Weed, as we said, the late Murray Wiedemann, Bob
Yep.
Loveday,
Bobby
Bob
Loveday,
Keddy,
yep.
Bob Keddy,
Mhm.
Voss Williams,
Yep.
Trevor Hughes, and then Knuckles. So you
Yep.
certainly played under a few. Now, reading, I want to get this right. So in 77, Westies finished third. Did you
Correct.
play in those finals?
I did.
Right.
Yes.
So there was another record was wrong.
Yeah.
We found earlier. It said you only played in the one final against Norwood in 81. So that was wrong. So I'm glad we found that
that's
one.
right. No, we were bottom. I think 76 we played in a first semi.
Yeah, that'd be right.
We got beat, and then the second year we got through to the preliminary final, and Glenelg beat us in the preliminary final, and went on to play Port Adelaide in the grand final. So yes, I remember that. I was home mowing my lawns at South Clinton on the Saturday, and thinking I should be on a different patch of grass.
Yeah, the
Not
what
here.
ifs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So
What did you lose that prelim by, Dexter, roughly?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What did you lose the prelim by, roughly?
Oh, I cannot remember. I think they beat us reasonably comfortably in the end, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we were fairly competitive early, but I think they were a good side back then, as were Port Adelaide. But and it didn't. It's like I don't really think about those sort of games. But all I know is we didn't win, which was unfortunate.
Now, just see that you did win the B&F in 78. Did you consider that your best year, or?
Yeah, I think it was a fairly consistent year, though. I must say, I had a patch there during the course of the year where about 3 or 4 games, 5 games, I just couldn't get near the ball. And then all of a sudden, I remember one wet day over against South Adelaide, it all come back. It was just really strange. But I'd say that would perhaps, would have to be my best year collectively, yeah.
And where was it? Was it South Melbourne you nearly went to, on memory?
Yeah, actually, in 76, I went across to Collingwood when the Weed was coaching.
Oh, right, of course, that's right.
And then came back. I wasn't going to get a clearance, and then went over to South Melbourne in 79. Yes, and missed half the season. I came back just before the end of June, but while West Adelaide wouldn't clear me, and I was actually Ian Stewart. It's a bit funny actually. It was Des Tudner that recruited me, but they sacked him pre-season and replaced him with Ian Stewart. So, and after the first game, till I left, I was actually the runner. Okay. So, which was a very interesting experience, I can tell you.
But I mean, the frustration really to go over there, and back then it was still very much VFL, SNFL, and don't dare take our players and all that side of things. So it was a totally different era where people listening nowadays just would have no idea that it really they were opposite ends of the world. But it would have been pretty frustrating to go over there and not get a clearance. Yeah,
well, it was. Doug, the late great Doug Thomas was there, and Doug said, "You were contracted." I must have had a contract for about $80 a winning game.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to pay out much, and so. And he said, they weren't going to clear me. So in the end, I had to make a decision, and I came home, as I said, just before the June 30th cut-off. Yeah. Otherwise, I would have had to sit out the whole year. So it was frustrating knowing, because I played some trial games, and knowing that you perhaps could have played. How well, that we don't know, but could have played at that level. So. But that's the way it was, and actually, I came back. It's just that I came back. Ended up making. I think we made the state side that year, so I was pretty fit and match ready. So it didn't take me long to get into playing when I got back to Adelaide.
Was that something that you sort of really wanted to do? Was playing the VFL at that stage?
I think so. I think any player during that period of time. 60s and 70s would have loved to have gone across to the AFL and done well. There wasn't many that went across that did very well in that period of time. And then of course, in the 80s, mid-80s, when the Clomps, the Kernahans, the Bradleys, the Nayleys, and all these guys went across and really made an impact on the VFL. So yeah, I think it was. You always want to play in the best competition, and the VFL was the best competition. We had a very strong competition in South Australia, and West Australia did
it
too.
was.
But go on, sorry.
Yeah, I just think people still just didn't realise back then that it was a bloody strong competition. And the VFL, I think Paul, the VFL side's probably batted a little bit deeper with depth in their side, but that was really the difference.
Yeah, correct.
In terms of anything else, I think it was very, very comparable. And, there were certain times where the sides here were better than Victorian sides, but a lot of Victorians still won't get that. So,
yeah, but you're right. They seem to be. I think their programs are slightly different. They were stronger. They'd started back then. They'd started doing weight programs and whatever, where we hadn't started doing weight programs.
Yeah,
I only did weights because I had to. It was in my bill to compete against your Peter Careys, your Rick Davies, and the strength, because it was back then it was check side.
Yes.
See, I was a jumper. I was a high jumper, so I could jump, but when you had someone like Rick or Peter, or all the big Dean Ottens, the big strong guys leaning against you,
Neil Button,
you really had to sort of build your strength up to be able to compete.
So you mentioned there that you made state team.
Yes.
Who did you play against? And
mainly Western Australia. I played I played 10 senior ones and 2 under 21 games.
Yeah, we saw that. That was 73 and 75. Yeah.
Yeah. We played. I think we played Queensland both times.
Yeah.
Once up there and once down here, and I played in the Carnival in. I can't remember. Maybe 1980. 79, 80, 81 Carnival in Western Australia.
Yes.
Yeah, and but played a couple of times against Victoria. Once against, a couple of times against Tasmania. I think it was Tasmania in the Carnival, but mainly Western Australia.
I reckon that Carnival in WA. I reckon that was the one where I reckon Jeff Morris got all Australian.
He did, and he certainly did. Yeah, and there was one here in Adelaide where Keith Coleman got.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was lucky to play in 2 carnivals. So it was good. And I think state footy is it's a pity we don't play state footy anymore. So but. The powers to be have decided that they don't do it. I think the NRL do it very well. The state of origins are fantastic.
Who was your coach for the state team?
That's good. Jack Cahill, I think, and Curls was. Jack Cahill and Curls were the 2 coaches I played under. Yeah.
Left in pretty good hands with those two, I'm sure.
No, it was good. And of course, Foster was always the chairman of selectors and whatever. And we had some good characters. And the late Billy Newell was was mainly the fitness coach. And So I was trying to think and some of the trainers were real characters from different clubs. So it was good. It was quite nerve-wracking your first time you turn up for state training. And you meet guys that you normally only meet on the field. And
Billy Newell had a pretty long association with Curls, didn't he?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah, he was at Torrens. He was at Glenelg, I think.
Glenelg,
and he was a character, Bill. He was had a smile on his face, always had a laugh. But he knew his stuff when it came to fitness.
Of course, that 1981 final, the Neil Baum said hello that day, mate.
I did see the photo of that.
Yes.
Yeah, he.
Imagine nowadays, you might get a couple for that, I think.
Yeah, well, I bet you didn't even get reported.
No, I know.
I was lucky to get a free kick. I think the late Curls. I think he would have seen me hit the deck and must have yelled out, "Get up!"
Oh.
Nowadays I would have gone through the concussion protocol. And Barmy must would have got 6.
Yep, I reckon Barmy would have got 4 to 6 for that.
Yeah, he's a good man, Neil, and he. Him and I have chatted a couple of times and whatever, and as he said, you just happened to come into my territory. So
no, Barmy has also said that to me. He gets on well with you and all that.
Yeah.
'Cause I stir him up, said, geez, you made him earn that one. I was at a lunch a couple of weeks ago with Barmy, and now I'm the boring non-drinker, so I was asked to drive Barmy from Tanunda into town, so for the Richmond game and that. So always great to catch up with Barmy as well anyway. So
it's good for, you mentioned Hallett Shuard earlier. Hallett Shuard and Barmy are real good friends. So that was interesting. I just on there, I remember I was standing Jim Michael that day, and I was playing centre back, and the ball come up, and when sometimes you played footy, the ball just wouldn't sit up for me, and I paddled it along.
That's right. Yeah.
And I paddled until Barmy must have seen me come. I thought, well, he's had enough chances to get the ball. Cop this.
Yeah, definitely a different era. Oh,
yeah, and it was and the photographer.
He nailed it.
Charlton, he passed a year or so ago. I think he put it down as one of his favourite photographs.
Yes. Yeah.
Watching me get my face mashed.
So from there, what eventuated with deciding to go to Port, Dexter? And you're nice and unlucky. You've left just the West Adelaide Golden team, which I still say that West team in '83 is the best attacking team overall we've had in SANFL footy.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, it's amazing. You see on Facebook, you see things come up at SANFL and different teams, and you look at the West Adelaide sides. I was only saying to my partner Jenny last night, there was I think it was 1980. There was a West Adelaide reserves team, and in that reserves team there was 6 players that played in the winning in the grand final.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys like Peter Summit and Greg Summit, I'm sorry. They all play, and Jeff Morris. They all played in the side when we were bottom, smack bottom, and came through and played in that very good '83 side. But and I just say to people, maybe if I left 3 or 4 years earlier, they must have won 3 or 4 in a row. So maybe I was holding them back. So.
You think of that side though, like Luders, Linda, Mike Smith, and then Muret and Jeff Morris, and the Rovers, Conlon and Grosser. Yeah, it's a strong forward line.
And you look at Mark Micken, obviously didn't play in the grand final, but so strong, and Tony Burgess was an exceptional player off the half back line. So
he went and stood Davies in the grand final.
Yeah, and did very, very well. Yeah, so that was an amazing side. But you make decisions in life, Malcolm, and you can't be looking back all the time. And it was.
Let's not forget though. But let's not forget you've gone to Port in '83, '84. You played in the '84 grand final.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I'm a Nord man. That was one of the all-time great games. But let's also remember, and it certainly wasn't you, but Port's lack of discipline, where Tim Evans got sucked in. Harvey gave away the first goal to Michael Aish. Dwayne Russell caused the ball to be reversed in the goal square. Nord were just a bit smarter that day and kept their cool, and Port got sucked in a bit that day.
Yeah, and also they'd been building their momentum. They hit their peak just at the right time too. They had some very, very good players on that side. Don't forget. And as you say, it was. And I think one of the things that really cost us, and I always say it was Benny Harris getting injured the week before. The last game, he was fullback at that stage, and he, I think, I'm not saying we would have won, but I think he would have made a lot of difference and made it a bit more difficult forward for you guys. So
Martin Leslie said exactly the same thing when we did when we interviewed Martin and. No, not a problem with that at all. And there was no doubt he was a good player, Ben Harris.
He was an exceptional player, strong, hard at it, can play fullback, could go in the ruck. But in the end, we had to win with the team we had, and unfortunately, we fell short. So, and it was that other one, a player that was you don't hear much of, was McLaughlin. In that side, he was a very, very
Peter Lachlan.
Peter Lachlan, ex-Richmond player, very smart, very good player.
And he had a lot of injury problems, and probably the '84 final series was about the only time he got fair consistency. And he could seriously play. And Neville Roberts, Michael Aish, Keith Thomas. It was
It was a star-studded game,
Nord,
really.
Yeah, it was. And Nord were a side we shouldn't have finished fifth at the end of the minor round. We were a stronger side than that.
Yeah.
Had been poor at the first half of the year and then came home with a rush. But, yeah, it was a very good side. And it was. Both sides star-studded and, Bomber Clifford, Craig Bradley, Russell Johnson, Dwayne Russell.
Greg Anderson.
Yeah,
Greg
Ando.
Anderson.
It was
that's right. No,
Leslie, who was
Timmy
a gun.
Evans, as a full forward, a good player. Kicked over 100 goals that year. So, but as you say, it was a day that Nord played better. Though we were in front at 3/4 time only by a point, but they finished strongly, and once again, it's a game I know how much we lost by, but I've never watched the game. I've got a copy here somewhere, but I've still never.
Yeah, no, and I get that because I will be straight and honest as a Nord man. The loss in 18, I'll never watch that game against North again.
Yeah.
Like a few people said to me, "Oh, what a great game it was," and I don't want to ever see 1 minute of that game ever again.
Even if you're invited to the North Adelaide Footy Club.
Yeah, that was fun. No, Dexter,
they stitched him up.
Oh, so a couple of weeks. We lost the late great Fred Block and his daughter.
Choco.
Choco.
I know of him, and I'm good mates with a bloke called
Paul Whaley. With Wales.
Wales, who played for a lot for uni. Yep.
So that meant a lot to me. Choco's my hero. I readily admit that. And his daughters rang, and they wanted me to come and catch up with them at Prospect that night. Nord had played Centrals at Nord, so I drive to Prospect. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, I reckon North have got their 18 premiership reunion tonight. So I walk in. Obviously, I'm the only person there with Nord gear on. And Josh Carr and Jacob Surgeon, I don't know either of them that well, but I'd met both of them. And so, I said, I'm not watching this crap. And I've turned my head away. And he was quite good, though, yelling out, right, hey, Malcolm, turn round, Boyd Woodcock kicks a goal in the next 10 seconds. And I'm yelling out, get last year's grand final up. I want to watch the Kings goal. And Cameron Craig, who I'd coached in cricket's gone, no way, piss off, Malcolm. I never want to see that goal again. So it was actually quite funny barter. And it was banter. It was a good fun night. And they both came up and said, hey, good on you for that. I'm playing along with it. It was a bit of fun, but it was a bit of bloody irony.
Is that something that you get on very well with some of the Nord guys? You talked about Barmy as probably one, but is that something that you get along well because of the 84 grand final?
Oh, but maybe not because of the 84 grand final, but
Dexter's just a generally good mixer.
Had a past player. Yeah, we had a SNFL past players show last week, and you see him. A bloke I didn't play, he played after me, Rick Neagle. I catch up with him, and Aishi was one of the guests there with Keith Corman. So I think all clubs I disliked the Bays a lot, but it's a team, but not the players. So I don't think there's anybody in the competition that I played against that I have any ill feeling towards or don't get on with.
And I think that's the big thing about sport. Afterwards, it's like I caught up today with a guy, David McLeod. I played a grand final against him in cricket in 91-92. He was playing for Fulham. I was playing for Paynham. We were chatting about that game today. And that's what sport is all about in the nuts and bolts at whatever level we're talking about. The fact that you happen to be a lot better and you're a league footballer. And that way, it's exactly the same catching up with anyone and everyone.
Absolutely. And I spent a lot of time with the West Adelaide boys. There's a group of us that go out, and you were saying about the North Adelaide. Quite often, I went to Bernie Conlon's, was his 50th or he wouldn't be 60. No, 60th might have been 60th.
I reckon it's just 60th,
and of course, they had lots of the '83 grand final on the screen. And the game at Richmond when Burgess kicked the late goal that cost us a spot in the 4 that year. And so, they look at me and I said, But but you got to, hey, as I say, winners can laugh and us losers can please ourselves.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, no, I had lots and lots of great times during the 15 years I played football.
And getting chosen for the West Adelaide Hall of Fame, your induction in 2007, where does that's got to sit pretty high, Dexter?
Yeah, it's a very special, it's a very special award to get to in any sport to be inducted into a Hall of Fame, whether it be club wise or competition wise. So it was that was very very special, and the fact to think that you came to Adelaide as a 14-year-old boy, not really knowing what was going to happen. I could have easily slipped through the cracks and just disappeared. But to be looked after by West Adelaide and great people around West Adelaide, and do okay and be able to play for the club for 13 years, and get recognised into their Hall of Fame, I think it's very special.
Oh no, it's a great honour, and it's something you should be justified to be proud of. I think you're a bit unlucky though. I reckon in terms of your build nowadays in footy, you would absolutely dominate AFL footy now, Dexter. In terms of that to jump. You'd be centre half back nowadays, or even ruck rover. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys running around now. They're my height and heavier, and they're playing half forward flanks and on the wings, and it's a different game now.
Cripps is 6'4".
Yeah,
it's extraordinary, really.
Yeah, and who's the big fella for the power? He's retired now. Had the beard.
Westhoff. Justin
Westhoff.
Yeah.
He's my height. He's 6'6". He's my height. And I don't think you very rarely ever saw him in the ruck. He was always on a half forward line.
And just so mobile and just different era as well. Like you're probably, I think, maybe Darcy more, maybe a fraction more mobile, but geez, you'd be around that. That'd be your role nowadays.
Yeah, that's I play a lot of defence in the end.
Yeah.
As I said, it's a lot of what ifs, but you'd like to think that you could contribute to playing these days. Yeah.
So, any involvement in footy nowadays at all?
No, not now. No,
oh, just have a look.
I played. When I went to Port, I actually went to live up in the hills. So I coached a little bit at Mount Barker.
Yep.
And they were in the Hills League, and then I coached Nan. When I lived in Nan, they were at that stage they were in the River Murray League. So, but it wasn't much chop.
Trying to think what caused you. I'm trying to remember because you weren't that old to finish up after 84.
I was 31. I got a virus.
Virus, yes. I was I'm thinking now, is it a virus or an ankle? And I was trying to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed all of 85. I got a virus in the January of 85.
Right.
And I didn't feel well, and I had I thought I had what they call a mild case of what they call Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a lot of wastage in my right shoulder.
Yep.
So I missed, and I just couldn't. It's like having the flu constantly. So all year in 85. I just couldn't get on the track, and then 86 I did the pre-season, feeling a bit better, but played a couple of trial games, and I played a reserves trial at Elizabeth, and after the game I just didn't feel right. It's like when you put your head down to pick up the ball, it's like putting your head in a black hole.
Okay.
And the peripheral vision wasn't there, and I could see myself getting cleaned up big time.
Yeah, well,
so
yeah.
I just said, well, thanks for the memories, and I just retired. So it's 3 or 4 games short of 300. So, but each player's time comes, whether it be through injury or or whatever. So you got to retire at some stage, and that was the way I retired.
Look, it's just pot luck. A lot of it in the end. We'll never know. We'll be.
Now, did you have a favourite ground that you liked playing at?
Actually, I liked Richmond Oval, obviously. I played, but Adelaide Oval, I loved playing Adelaide Oval when we played Adelaide Oval. It was really good walking out the middle of when the cricket pitches were still in the ground, and you stand out there and you say, just imagine Don Bradman stood here once, or Gordon Greenwich, or just all those famous cricketers, and there you were standing in. Usually it was a bit wet and boggy, but. Yep. That was just something that I used to think about a bit. Then the umpire blow the whistle, and you had to focus on going for the ball. But Adelaide Oval was a special place. Richmond's a special place, and Albion, I suppose. I when I went the 2 years as a Port Adelaide was it's a lot of history in that ground as well. So they're perhaps my three favourite grounds.
Now, best players played with and again, and hardest opponents.
Well, now we do preface this by saying you can name 3 or 4 because
go for how many you ever like,
it's
mate.
too hard to pick one.
Well, obviously at West Adelaide, there was Robert Day.
Yeah.
There was so many good players. You look at a young Mark Micken when he came through. When he first started, you could see he was going to be special. Jeff Morris was always hard at it. Jeff
worked hard, didn't he?
Yeah. Simon Fraser was a very good player.
Okay.
Back in the early days, he was very very consistent.
Rodney
good
Pope.
Player. Yeah, Popey. No, Popey. What I saw of Popey was, I think he was at the stage where he needed a new challenge, and he went to Nord and look what happened there.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
He was a great player. Bobby Loveday, of course, he got everything out of his ability and his body.
Yeah.
Bob. So
I loved Peter Muret's skills too. He was special in that way.
Yeah, he was a very correct. He was one of those sort of players that all of a sudden you're running along, the ball would end up in your lap. You didn't know where it come from, but he knew what was going on. So he was a great player, very very clever player.
Yes.
And said I've missed a few, but there's lots of them. And of course, at Port Adelaide, the list is Russell, obviously.
Yeah.
Russell Johnson was a good player.
Craig Bradley.
Craig and Andrew were coming. They're only young fellas, their first and second year though, but you could see that they had some really, really good years in front of them. Marty Leslie was a great player. Chrissy Knapp was a really good player. He was
good SNFL player, wasn't he? He was hard at it,
got everything
wiry,
out of it,
yeah,
and used to jump high and straight. So, I know I've missed players, but you can go through those sides in the 70s, and it went pretty deep.
Hardest opponents, mate.
Oh well, excuse me. Peter Carey would be the one that I could, and I'm pretty good. I know Soup actually. I had a meeting with his son yesterday actually, so young Justin. But Peter definitely, he's one player I could put my hand up and say I never beat him. I think once in my own mind, I might have drawn even, but of course it was. But all the sides had great players. And you look at Rick Davies. You had Big Ottens. You had
Dean Ottens was huge too. He was big.
When I played, and he was mobile.
Yes,
big and mobile. And I remember playing him at Sturt one day, and he's like, where's he? He's from another planet. And of course, Dean Farnham, 6'10".
Yeah,
was an enormous player. And then you had there's just so many. Oh, Neil Button, I can't forget Neil Button, a great player. Neil Button was, and he was always difficult.
So you would have played with and against Michael Gregg. The Galloping Hat Rat was another one in terms of great nickname too.
Absolutely.
Of course, Woodville. There was you had.
McKellar.
Malcolm Blight, Ray Huppets, Colin McVicker was very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong. So
that's right. And then he went to Glenelg. That's right. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
We should have asked this earlier, but your nickname, did you have a nickname?
Well, the only bloke who ever gave me a nickname was a bloke called Richard McCowcheck. You might remember Richard McCowcheck.
McCowcheck, yes.
He came across, Dick. Yes. He came across from East Perth to West East, and then ended up going to North Melbourne. And he used to call me the Milky Bar Kid. So
that's right.
I don't know because I don't know if there's an ad on TV.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So every time he calls me Milky. So there's another, Peter Vivian from Central.
Yes, that's right.
Milky as well.
Yeah.
So, but really, I think Dexter was a big enough nickname.
And Danny Hansen would have a crack at me if I didn't mention his son Dexter. And yes, the Dame would say out of that. So we often muck around about your influence on his son. So yeah, a bit of fun there. Yeah, and he's actually Ando's his brother-in-law. So yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So.
There you go. Ando lives just around the corner. I saw him this morning on the way to work, sitting at the cafe.
The old small Adelaide yet again, mate.
Absolutely.
Oh, half a degree of separation.
Yes.
Adelaide, mate,
Yes.
I can tell you.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yes, and I actually see Wales a fair bit with his recruiting role, so I'm quite often sitting with him at junior games with him and Jeff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, Jeff Morris is a good man.
Yes.
He does a great job recruiting. He did a great job when he was at Port Adelaide as well. So in their premiership year.
Yeah, we're always having a chat about various players. And Jeff then says, well, how many times have you seen him? And we back and forth. So, yeah, it's good fun. It's great to catch up with Wales and Jeff very regularly. Yeah,
so I'm having dinner with Wales on Friday night, actually. So I'll tell him I had a chat to you.
Yes, I'll send it through to Wales and I'll send it through to you as well, Dexter, when it
does
go up. Yeah. So,
fantastic.
Greatly appreciated, Dexter. Thank you for your time. Sorry for the bit of a hiccups at the start, but it was a bit of fun.
Right.
But we got through it. So, greatly appreciated, mate. At least I showed my memory. My memory was still working, so it was okay. Thanks, mate.
Good work. Thanks. Thank you very much, Peter and Malcolm. I'm much appreciated.
Thank you, Dexter.
Thanks, Dexter.
Have a good one.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.